up to another good morning. Time to go. Oh, we are all looking for adventure. We are all looking for adventure. We are all
Welcome back to the 3x5 Life
podcast.
So on this show, we try to dive into our mission, which is purpose-driven productivity. Last week, we talked about myths of meditation. I hope you got something out of that, some value. And today, we are going to talk about
Minimalism
and Bryan's wardrobe of gray t-shirts.
Yeah, that will be part of this.
That Jessie loves.
You're wearing one today. Go
She
figure.
loves all the color I introduced to my wardrobe. Anyway, so we're going to look at minimalism through the eyes of consumerism, a big life decision, obligations, and organization. So those are some 4 points that we're kind of hit on with minimalism. It's been a big part of our journey, and it's really the reason the cards exist now. When I had all my journals and everything that I was doing, I looked at that through the lens of minimalism, and I was like, this is just too much. It's overwhelming. And that's where kind of the cards spawn from just like paring it down, making the whole journaling, morning routine, evening routine lighter than it was. So first thing we're going to talk about is consumerism. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, sure. This has been quite a journey for us. And I was actually trying to think about when we started to go this route with our finances and what we're buying and our purchases. And it actually was through my training at the Institute of Integrative Nutrition. They had us do this Wheel of Life exercise. And in that exercise, we had just gotten married, we had just bought a house, and it looks at all of the areas of your life and kind of these little like pillars. And the finances one for us was extremely low. I think it was the lowest one that we had. And because of that exercise, we sat down and we had a serious conversation about our finances and what we could do. At that point, I still had student loans. We still had some debt that we were trying to work through. And we started to look at the way that we buy things. And this is coming off of us obviously just purchasing a house. That was a huge purchase for us. But I remember we even took, like, we used to have a debit card that we would put a specific amount of money on. And then each week we shared that debit card. And if we went over that amount of money, then that was it. And there were very uncomfortable situations sometimes because we were both using this during the week. And we would be at the grocery store, I would be at the grocery store and have to literally put items back because I didn't have enough money in our account. But what that did was it brought
hold on. At Costco once, the card declined and we knew the people behind us kind of like at an arm's length, and it was super awkward.
Yes, they did. And they were like putting stuff back in Costco. But whatever. I mean, it worked for us, and it actually brought so much awareness to our spending. And so we kind of started that mantra. I've always kind of abided by this, but when I purchase things, I always say, is this a need or is this a want? And when you start to look at purchases through that lens of this is a need, then you can justify the fact that you can purchase it, or you save for it, or you give up something else in order to purchase that. So if you haven't had a conversation with yourself or with your spouse or whoever about finances and what you're purchasing and the meaning behind those purchases, sometimes we use like retail therapy as like a way to help us with our emotional spending. And I think sometimes if you kind of back up and look at the underlying reasons for why you're doing that, you might be able to limit some of those purchases. So that's something that's been really, really important to us. Even with toys and our kids, when we bring, stuff into our home that we're purchasing or other people have purchased for us, we try really hard to have our kids also select toys that they're then going to donate or get rid of, just to bring in that idea of like, we don't want that overabundance of stuff.
Yeah. And one quote regarding this point that really hit me between the eyes is when someone said, what you own owns you, and that really hit home with me because I'm looking around and it's just like, all right, if I make this decision to buy this, be it like a stand-up paddleboard and you're like, oh, I'm going to go stand-up paddleboarding all the time. Now, every time you look at that, when you only go twice a year, it's just like weighs on you. It doesn't feel good. Now, if you're using it all the time, that's a different story, but decisions like that. So that brings us to point 2.
Well, wait, wasn't there a point in life where you went an entire year without making a personal purchase?
Yeah, that was like 2 years ago.
Was that?
No, I did. I bought this. We went to Acadia and I bought this bracelet right here. So that was it was like August and it was like a $10 bracelet and I broke the streak. But then I continued the rest of the year after spending that $10. But that's how anal I got.
He's worn it every day, right?
Yeah,
Like he's worn it every day. But yeah, you went a whole year without making a purchase. And that's such a cool exercise to do. Because then every time you go to make that purchase, you're hyper focused and hyper aware of, do I want to do this? Is it worth it?
Now, if you're interested in doing that, I made rules. So I could buy like running gear. So if like my shoes like wore out, and if it was something that was like personal development, like a book or something like that, I could purchase that. But if it was like a random widget or whatever, like for me, I don't know, like something.
We purchased a lot of widgets in our house.
Then I couldn't purchase it. So anyway, let's move on.
Sorry.
So big life decisions. So looking at big life decisions through the lens of minimalism. So an example of this is we were contemplating moving, and we have a smaller house, but it fits our family well. We're a family of 4, and we love our location. But we were just like, hey, maybe we want some more land, this and that. And then we really put down like a pros and cons list of what this would mean. It would mean a bigger mortgage. It would mean, a bigger upkeep on the house because it would be a bigger house, bigger upkeep on the land because it's more land, all of that. And when we really looked at, is this truly going to make us happy? And is this consuming this going to uplift our life in certain ways? And yes, in certain ways it would. But then when we really looked at it through minimalism and what we wanted in this life, having a smaller house actually freed us up to do more things that we actually enjoy.
And one of our biggest family values is financial freedom. Like we've always tried really hard to be smart with our money so that we have that financial freedom, which goes right in hand with minimalism. And we were so terrified. Like when you looked at that pros and cons list, that was our first thing was like, we do not want to give up financial freedom. And we've been paying down our mortgage for quite some time. And when we got serious about our finances, that was another thing that we prioritized. How do we pay off our mortgage as quickly as possible? So to kind of start that process in reverse a little bit felt like it wasn't serving us in our mission. And I actually like our little small house. It forces us to hang out with each other. My love language is quality time.
It is.
So I want us to be together all the time. So I really love that it forces us to be in the same room, and it just feels good for us.
Yeah, for sure. So any big life decision that you're making, just kind of look at it through that lens, and we found that helpful. Next one is obligations. So that goes to if it's not a hell yes, it's a no. So what are you putting on your schedule that isn't light, that is really filling up your time and just stressing you out and more. We've talked about this in the past about stress and how obligations can drive stress, but almost looking at it again through the lens of minimalism of just making all your obligations lighter, and even your schedule, your daily schedule lighter, not signing up for all the activities for your kids. Like now that we're out of COVID, Jesse and I was talking about this before we jumped on here. What are we doing with our kids? And not overscheduling it because all of a sudden this world's opened up, and keeping it light in that standpoint too.
I think it's such a timely conversation for the obligations piece. Exactly what you said. During COVID, we were forced to kind of take a step back and reflect on what are we saying yes to? Because we really couldn't say yes to anything.
Right.
And now that we are opening back up and, things are starting to kind of move back, being careful to hold those spaces sacred that you found comfort in. I found that family time for us and prioritizing our family and, you spending one-on-one time with the kids or me spending one-on-one, it felt right. It felt really good. And I think sometimes when it goes I'm scared that we're going to go back to business as usual, where we're cramming our schedules and we're feeling overwhelmed. And so that hell yes is a perfect example of if something comes to your plate and someone asks you to do something, don't do it because you feel like you have to. Make sure that it's something that your heart is telling you to do and that it serves you and your family or whoever you're trying to be around.
Oh, right. Exactly. Or if little Susie's going to swim camp, you feel then I should send our child to swim camp, those types of put it through your own lens.
We are in swim camp actually, which is really no, we're on swim team, which is a whole new obligation, but our kids are liking it, but it is every day.
So last one.
Sorry. Obligations. Oh no.
Organization
and decluttering.
So your girl.
My girl, Marie Kondo. So
no, actually.
You actually embraced
I read the book.
I listened to the podcast and the TED Talk, and I watched the Netflix show.
And you were very scared when I was reading the book.
Well, yeah, because Bryan's organization is he's, in case you don't know, he's 100% Bryan. If he does something, it's 100%. So there are versions of Marie Kondo's organization that I loved. I'm not into the folding your t-shirt into the smallest pocket possible and putting it in your drawer. Bryan, however, does that. But what I did love about that is the feeling that you get when you let go of things,
Yes.
right? Summer's a perfect time to do this because it's this natural kind of reawakening, right? Like the summer solstice was yesterday, actually. And so going through your closet and your belongings, organizing spaces that are just like have become like your clutter zone. We have one room in our house that is kind of like our workout office, sauna room, like everything that it could possibly be. And it tends to be this like collaboration of stuff that we end up putting in there.
Mhm.
The rest of our house seems very organized, but that room. And so taking just a moment to kind of like put the stuff away, if we haven't touched it or used it, donating it or getting rid of it, it can feel really great. And it's such a stress reducer.
Yeah.
So when you're talking about minimalism, if there is clutter in your house, that's like mental fatigue, right? And even when your wardrobe is overwhelming or overflowing, that creates this sense of like energy sucking. You're like, I have to make these decisions about what I'm going to wear every day. And that's why Bryan wears great t-shirts.
No decision fatigue.
Literally every day. I mean, I'm like really trying to get like a pattern or something, but like, I mean, it's different shades of gray.
White too.
Oh, he does have white. But I love color, but I am very strategic about my closet. In fact, I only have the smallest closet ever and then one dresser that I have my stuff in. And if I haven't worn it in a while, I feel like it's time to go. Marie Kondo says you have to say I'm so grateful for this and thank this item of clothing.
Yes.
And you don't even
release it.
But it just feels nice. And so if you haven't, our thought behind this podcast was just to give you this like kind of, I'm going to keep using the word lens, but this lens that we try to look through in these areas of our life. And by doing so, it has created some really great things for us. It's, allowed us to have this organized space for our kids and, the toys that we bring into our house. I'm very strategic about, are they bringing like meaning and learning? Like what's the reason why this toy is coming into our space or this item? And, displaying our bookshelves in a way that like encourage them to play and use it. And just like our financial pieces of it, it has created financial freedom for us because we're very strategic about our purchases. So more than anything, we just wanted to give you guys some tips of things that have worked for us. Yeah. If you're interested in more information on minimalism, there are so many podcasts, resources. Netflix has a couple documentaries.
Yeah, Less is More is the new one. And the old one is, I think, The Minimalist.
I think it's called The Minimalist. Yeah. Something like that. Just to kind of get the idea of how you might be able to bring some of this into your own world and your own life.
Exactly.
And the cards. I mean, the cards, that was one of the pieces behind why we did this. The to-do list alone was such a source of overwhelm for me because I would look at my 30-item to-do list and then the cards create this space for me where I can prioritize what's most important. And then I put them on my card and it's a daily reminder of just prioritizing the smaller, minute details of a day. And it just feels really good.
Good. Awesome. Well, I hope you enjoyed. I hope you got some value out of today's episode. Subscribe, share with a friend if you're interested. And until next week.
Take care.
Hello world, wake me up to another good morning. Time to go. Oh, we are all loved.